Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE and compare it against the Nothing Phone 2A and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, the big thing I would definitely tell you is that when it comes down to both these particular devices, in almost every single way I can imagine, I'm pretty sure the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE is kind of the one that's kind of the better one. I think that's kind of the best way to kind of describe it. I think a device like the Galaxy, S24 FE is probably the better one, but I think something like the Nothing Phone 2A is also a very good device, and you can't really go wrong with that one either. I just love how the Nothing Phone 2A is significantly cheaper, but with S24 FE, it's still kind of more the flagship when it comes down to it. But we'll take a look at both these phones throughout this whole entire video. If you want to pick up either one for the cheapest prices that I find, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular devices, on the front side of the Nothing Phone 2A, you're basically getting a 6.7-inch AMOLED display. It's 120Hz, and for the most part, it's not a terrible looking display, especially when it comes down to the price tag. Because the price of this phone is fairly low, it's not like the most expensive phone of all time, that is a pretty big asset for this type of device, right? Now, a few things, it's only 1300 nits of brightness, so it's not really the brightest display of all time. It's also not the best looking display of all time either, but it's like a good big display. It's 1080p, and I think it's like more of a pro than it is a con, especially for the price tag. Whereas on the S24 FE, more expensive phone, but on this device, you're basically getting a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display. So this phone is giving you basically the same size display, different display technology, but it is 1080p, but it's 120Hz on this display. So that is a really big asset to have on that type of phone. So it's 120Hz, but it's also 1900 nits of brightness. So that panel does actually end up getting brighter on that type of phone, which I think is a really big deal. So once again, if you're going to go through and pick up a device, it is a really nice thing to have a phone like this, Samsung Galaxy S24 FE that's going to be giving you the overall brighter display. So that in of itself is something that I actually like a lot about that type of device. Now, on top of that, another very big thing going on for these types of phones too is the fact that with something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE, I feel like this is kind of the better feeling phone in some ways. So if you're looking at both, the S24 FE is giving you this aluminum side and everything like that, which feels great. The Nothing Phone 2A is pretty much built out of plastic, has a plastic frame, and it has a plastic back. That is somewhat of a disadvantage for that type of phone. Although the front phones, they look kind of similar. The rest of the body on the Nothing Phone 2A just doesn't feel that great. The Samsung Galaxy S24 FE definitely feels and looks a little bit better. Although on the back side, a very interesting thing here is that with something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE, you are getting this standard, glass back, triple camera setup. The Nothing Phone 2A is giving you this dual camera setup, but it's giving you this see-through plastic back, which is actually super, super cool. So I will tell you from that side, it is super nice of having that type of capability in and of itself. If you are going to go through and get a phone, it is actually very nice to have that type of capability in and of itself. I'm actually a big fan of that, the glyph interface. But even at that point, it's still probably nicer to have a better feeling phone. And that's where the S24 FE kind of comes into play. So when it comes out of those things and the exterior, I probably will tell you the S24 FE is more of a flagship. They're both giving you, good feeling phones, but the Nothing Phone 2A, because it's like an ultra budget phone, it's missing out on a couple things like wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, a glass back, things like that. I think you're definitely going to be getting an overall better experience, in my personal opinion, on the Galaxy S24 FE than from something like the Nothing Phone 2A. But that should make sense because the price tag is pretty crazy. The Nothing Phone 2A is costing about $300-ish on Amazon. The Galaxy S24 FE is basically still over $600 and something. So it's like almost half the cost on the Nothing Phone 2A, but I don't necessarily think it's like half the phone. So I think that right there is probably one other big thing to kind of keep in mind there. Now from the camera side, both phones are going to be giving you, camera setups obviously. The Nothing Phone 2A is giving you this dual camera setup, 50 megapixel wide and then a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera with a 32 megapixel front facing camera, whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE, you're getting a 50 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel telephoto, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. So when it comes down to this kind of stuff, you're basically going to be getting, a better camera setup, I would say, on the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE. And the main reason for this, number one, is because the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE is basically giving you 8K capability on the back with 4K at 60 also on the front of the back, whereas on the Nothing Phone 2A, you're only getting 4K at 30 on the back and basically 1080p at 60 on the front. So this is in and of itself a pretty big deal too, having that type of capability on something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE, have given you 8K capability is a very big deal, and I would probably say that in and of itself is kind of a big takeaway on that type of phone. And if I'm personally going to go through and pick up a device, I really want to go ahead and buy a device that's going to be giving me a better camera without having to worry about it all the time. And definitely with something like the Galaxy S24 FE, that is going to be a much better camera here than the Nothing Phone 2a in my personal opinion. So from that side as well, that's another very big takeaway. On top of that, when it comes down to the software longevity, I'm not really too sure which one's going to last longer here. I'd probably say it's going to be something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE, but also the Nothing Phone 2a, because it's more stock Android, that can give you the impression that it is probably going to be lasting longer. And because we're comparing One UI against the Nothing OS, whatever their software version is, the thing I will tell you is that with something like the Nothing Phone 2a, because that is more stock Android, more people might actually appreciate that type of software more so than One UI. But with that being said, One UI has almost always had more features in their software, and that has been one of my favorite takeaways and favorite things going on for something like the One UI devices. So overall, what I'll tell you from that side is they're both going to be lasting for a very long amount of time, and I'm not really too sure which one's going to be lasting the longer one. One advantage for the Nothing Phone 2a though is that phone is basically going to be giving you a 5,000 mAh battery, where the Galaxy S24 FE is giving you a 4,700 mAh battery. However, although you're getting a bigger size battery on the Nothing Phone 2a, you are getting wireless and reverse wireless charging inside of something like the Galaxy S24 FE. So that is something that you are lacking inside something like the Nothing Phone 2a. So that right there is kind of another big thing to keep in mind there as well. When it comes down to the performance, you're getting the Exynos 2400E chipset inside of the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE with 8GB of RAM, where the Nothing Phone 2a is giving you that MediaTek Dimensity 7200 Pro chipset with 8 or 12GB of RAM. So when it comes down to this side, right, this is kind of an interesting thing too, because both these devices, in my personal opinion, do give you an overall pretty good experience. However, I would probably say when it comes down to all these things, a device like the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE may just give the impression that it is an overall faster phone. And the reason for that is because a device like that is basically going to be giving you things like a more powerful chipset, I think. I think that chipset is probably going to be overall more powerful than something like the Nothing Phone 2a. But with that being said, I think a Nothing Phone 2a device is still going to be doing pretty solid. That device is not going to be doing super terrible, and I think that's a very big thing to keep in mind here as well. But I think when it comes down to both these phones, they're both going to be great, but something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE might be the better performing device. So when it comes down to it, in my personal opinion, I definitely like both these phones. I like the Nothing Phone 2a because it is an extreme budget phone. It doesn't really cost that much money, and it's a really good device nonetheless. But I look at a device like the Galaxy S24 FE as being the overall better one here in basically almost every single way I can imagine. So from that side, that's kind of how I see both these phones kind of holding up in my personal opinion. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.